So here we have a fragrance that was released towards the tail end of 2021. This fragrance kind of blindsided people a bit because the original Starwalker by Mont Blanc came out a while ago. So very much like Individuel, we had Individuel Tonic by the same brand, which came out last year. We also had Starwalker Extreme. Now, originally I had looked at the note breakdown and I said, well, this sounds pretty interesting, very citrusy. There was also a fruity combination in the opening that made me a little suspicious. It has apple and pineapple, which are two notes that are found in Creed's Ventus, and so I had to smell it for myself. But it also has lavender, geranium, a marine accord, creamy sandalwood. You have tonka bean in the base, in addition to a little bit of patchouli. And so I ended up purchasing this one from Nordstrom Rack. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on it, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my review of Starwalker Extreme by Mont Blanc, a fragrance that is fairly new, it was released towards the tail end of last year, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. Make sure to enable all notifications by clicking on the bell icon. This way, whenever I do review brand new designer releases, these videos will get sent straight to your feed. You'll get a push notification sent straight to you on your mobile device. And give this video a thumbs up if you take something of value from today's content. This ensures that my videos get in front of as many people as possible. So the thumbs up thing really does mean a lot. So here we have Starwalker Extreme. I don't think I've ever owned the original Starwalker. Maybe I do. I'm gonna have to scour my collection to find it. And so I'm not like incredibly familiar with the original, but I very faintly remember what it smells like. And of course, with a designation like Extreme, you're kind of expecting it to be a darker version. You're expecting the omission of perhaps some of the fresher ingredients in the composition. But this one actually has orange and lemon in the opening. So you still have this element of freshness in the opening, but I think it's in the dry down that this fragrance really starts to darken up. So with the patchouli, the sandalwood, some of these dark, earthy, and woodsy ingredients, the tonka bean, also lending a fair bit of sweetness to the fragrance. Of course, nothing super sweet like a 1 Million by Paco Rabanne or an Ultra Mall by Jean Paul Gaultier. But in any case, I'm excited to give you my thoughts on this fragrance, which is now, or at the time that I'm recording this video, it's sold out at Nordstrom Rack, which is where I purchased it. But I'm excited to give you my thoughts on the smell in case you are able to find it somewhere online. But let's start things off with the presentation. So in the opening of this fragrance is where I was, I guess perhaps a little bit reminded of the original, which I haven't tried in a very, very long time. But I can also sense how this one is different, which kind of makes me want to do a comparison video. So perhaps that's something that I'll do a little bit down the road. But it does open up very fresh, very bright. And so initially I was like, well, where's the Extreme, right? It has a lot of citrus, the oil of lemon, the oil of orange. And then of course you also have this fruity combination of apple and pineapple, which concerned me a little bit because apple, pineapple, and blackcurrant are ingredients that are found in Creed Ventus. Well, I can kind of pick up on that fruitiness in the opening, but I would say it doesn't ever smell too strongly of apple, doesn't ever smell too strongly of pineapple either, but there is kind of like this generic fruitiness that I'm getting from the opening, which is actually pretty pleasant. And at times, it also kind of reminds me of something that like Hugo Boss would put out, you know, with a lot of like the scent fragrances, or even Boss Bottled, where it kind of has like that fruity DNA, maybe with like a little bit of spice. In any case, this one does open up a little fruity. It doesn't really ever go in one specific direction, but it seems like there's a fork in the road and you're kind of experiencing all trajectories at once. Now, as you give the fragrance a chance to dry down, I think the real classy accord is going to be found in the heart of the fragrance. So this one contains lavender, geranium, and a marine accord. I've smelled marine fragrances, right? Some of them have an overdose of ambroxan. Some of them have like a salty nuance about them, which is established through like seaweed or something like that. There isn't too strong of a marine quality about this fragrance. The lavender, yes. The geranium, yes. Although it's not overly minty, but the lavender, yes. So I think in terms of the notes that are found in the mid, the lavender probably stands out the most, which is actually a pretty nice complement to the citrus in the opening. And that fruity quality, I think, is a really cool complement to the tonka bean in the base, because those are the two elements in the fragrance that are lending the fragrance a little bit of sweetness. Now, in terms of the patchouli, I'm not sure what to make of it. You know, patchouli has a few very distinct personalities. You have the dry herbal variety, you have the chocolatey variety. I'm getting neither from this fragrance. So can't really say I'm getting a whole lot of patchouli, but I am getting the tonka bean, which is lending a tiny bit of sweetness, a fair bit of sweetness to this fragrance. Nothing super strong or anything like that. And at times it also feels a little bit ambery to me too, right? Like perhaps there's a little bit of vanillin in here, but amber, neither amber nor vanilla are notes in the note breakdown. And so I think most of what you're going to get from this fragrance is kind of like a generic fruity accord in the opening, a really subtle lavender in the heart, and then a really well-established tonka bean in the base. And it's a tonka bean the likes of tonka bean accords or notes that you've smelled in other designer fragrances. And so there is going to be that element of cohesiveness or that element of familiarity where you smell it and you're like, yeah, I've smelled a variation of this before. But with all that being said, I do think it's a solid fragrance. I think it's a fragrance that is going to appeal to a lot of people. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be the compliment getter that Bleu de Chanel is, or Versace Dylan Blue, or you know, one of those other mass appealing, super popular fragrances. But I think if you're looking for a DNA that possesses this air of familiarity, but is still good and is still tasteful, I think it's going to have a pretty steady following. And so I think once more people get the opportunity to smell this fragrance, I think it's going to grow a lot of love, and I think you're going to see a lot more people talking about it. I think there was a bit of an initial hype, and I think it is deserved in a certain way, but I think this is a fragrance that people really need to go out there and try for themselves, given the subjectivity of fragrances and the fact that what you like doesn't necessarily mean that the next person is going to like it, and vice versa. So in any case, solid fragrance. And I've heard a few people on online forums say that they prefer it over the original, which is a good thing. I always see the original in my TJ Maxx, so if I don't already own it, I'm definitely going to have to pull the trigger eventually. But in any case, I think it's a solid fragrance. Probably not my favorite release of 2021, but I think it's a good one, and I think it's one that if you're on a budget, I think you'll appreciate the quality of it. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, I don't know if I can necessarily find this fragrance to be super unique, just because I've tried a lot of other pineapple fragrances before, and lavender fragrances, and tonka bean, and I've smelled that sort of lavender tonka bean combination before, but I think the overall smell is very pleasant. You know, you don't necessarily have to be super groundbreaking and avant-garde to put out a solid fragrance, and I think Mont Blanc put out a solid fragrance without necessarily reinventing the wheel, which is totally fine. Longevity on this one is about 8 hours on my skin. Projection was great for the first half hour, but it didn't start to sit closer to the skin until about the 6-hour mark. So although it's not super loud in the opening like some other citrus-based fragrances, at least the projection is going to be pretty consistent, and it isn't going to start to die out until about hour 5 or 6. And it wasn't until hour 8 when I feel like the fragrance totally disappeared. In terms of the versatility, I think this one can be worn formally because of the DNA, casually because of the price. It is marketed for women, for men, pardon me. So I don't know if women would necessarily enjoy this one as much as like a Marc Jacobs Daisy, or you know, one of these other like feminine fragrances on the market. And I do think that this one will appeal to a younger crowd, and I can see this one being worn all year round. I do like the darker bottle on the extreme version. And the name itself is a little confusing, Starwalker Extreme. I mean, I know it kind of has like a space theme to it, which I do think is kind of cool, but you know, when you think of space, what smell are you necessarily thinking of? And so I don't think that that mnemonic connection was made initially by just reading the name of the fragrance, but I digress. My final verdict on this fragrance is, if you are looking for something that is really inexpensive, as long as it's in stock somewhere, and you are a fan of fruity fragrances with a slight bit of sweetness, and you don't mind that tonka bean thing that is happening in so many designer men's fragrances, check it out. You know, if you have like, how much did I pay for it? Like 40, 50 bucks. If you have 50 bucks burning a hole in your pocket, by all means, check it out. I do think it's a pretty interesting scent. Definitely one that I'm going to make a conscious effort to spend more time with. Although I've had it now for like 2 weeks and I don't particularly love it. But at the end of the day, I do think it's a solid release. And I do think that there are going to be people out there who love it. So again, given the subjectivity of fragrances, don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. And I just want to conclude by saying thank you for watching my review of Starwalker Extreme by Mont Blanc. If you enjoyed this video, let me know, leave a comment down below. Do you have a favorite from Mont Blanc? Do you like Individuel, Explorer, Explorer Ultra Blue, Individuel Tonic? You know, they have so many fragrances. Legend, I know there's a new one, Legend Red, coming out. I look forward to reviewing that one too. But if you did enjoy this review, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, give it a thumbs up. I love you all. We'll see you soon. Bye.